Remember, these people are risking their very lives to taste something we too often take for granted: liberty.
There were these appalling cases where people would be sort of severely wounded, and you could see them from the West, and there was nothing you could do. You know, they would sort of be left to bleed to death or drown or whatever.
All the cliches are true, actually. I mean, the East Side was very grey and drab. There was a sense of a certain sense of anxiety and fear, and it was much sort of darker and greyer and grimmer than the bright lights of the West.
Two days before the wall came down, I woke up in the middle of the night thinking, I need to be in Berlin. And I went to the foreign editor, Nigel Wade, who very kindly said, all right, you can go.
When I actually put it to my paper, I should be based in Berlin, and this was by early '89, they said, oh, I don't really think there's enough going on there to justify that. Well, a few months later, they were saying, why aren't you there already?
Günter Schabowski, the Berlin party boss, came to address the press conference, and it was held live on TV. I asked the most obvious question that I could think of, really, which was, Herr Schabowski, was wird jetzt mit der Berliner Mauer geschehen? What will happen now to the Berlin Wall?
Was wird mit der Berliner Mauer? Es sind dazu schon
Looking bemused, scratching his head, he repeats the question. He turns it round. He says, yes, well, what will happen to the Berlin Wall? Everybody who's watching thinks, he doesn't know. He doesn't really have an answer. If you can pinpoint one moment when the Cold War ended, it was that moment, because suddenly the emperor had no clothes. You know, there was this regime which had thought it was being so clever in opening up, travel, and suddenly realized that its whole raison d'etre had gone.
Tonight in Berlin, the boundary between the two Germanys is becoming even more blurred. Here at the Berlin Wall,
By this time, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of East Berliners and East Germans had swarmed into the western side of the city. Absolutely kind of incredulous, after all these years, 28 years the wall was up, that they could now simply walk across and see for themselves the West that had been denied them for so long.
No one had given the guards any orders. Nobody knew.
I headed almost straight away to the Kudamm, which is the main showcase shopping street in West Berlin, which had also attracted masses and masses of East Germans, and just watched in amazement as they were walking around in amazement, looking at all these shops and seeing things that they'd only ever seen on TV screens or had been told were terrible Western vices. Well, I walked into the car showroom of a BMW car showroom, and it was full of East Germans, and if these were Western vices, they wanted to get their hands on them as soon as possible.
I remember vividly going to a street where the wall went right through the middle of the street, you know, and the local people, it was all kind of filmed, you know, for the TV cameras. They got out their pickaxes and started hacking away, and one of them sort of handed me the very first chunk of wall to keep as a souvenir.
I spoke to an East German who had had a word with his boss that morning and said, boss, the Berlin Wall's open, do you think I can have the day off? And he said, okay, but be back at work on Monday. So I think everyone had a very, very long weekend, and it was perfect, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Berlin was party town extraordinaire. There was just such an outpouring of emotion, of pent-up feelings, pent up for 28 years, and a truly joyous event. I've recovered a lot of events in my time, but nothing can ever compare with that. Of course, historically, nothing will ever compare with it, but on a purely human level, it was quite extraordinary. The party lasted for 3 days, but I think after then, people realised there was going to be a bit of a hangover, and now what?